And this is the Sennheiser HD58x from the collaboration with Mastrop. And it's actually not that easy to obtain in Germany because basically you can buy it used or you have to import it, where it gets pretty expensive then, which kind of defeats the purpose of this one, because this is kind of a well known budget, well, maybe not even budget, maybe a little more expensive recommendation if you want to get into open bag, hi-fi, and especially kind of the Sennheiser lineup. It's the link between the cheaper Sennheiser HD599, 560S, and so on, and the more expensive ones, the HD600, HD6XX, and 650. And this one is somewhere in between here. So I was really curious, well, how does it sound? And is it really as pleasant to listen to as people say? And so, yeah, I guess that's enough for the intro. Let's start with build quality. So I bought one in used, but basically new condition. Let's just start with build quality here. So build wise, it is definitely placed above the rest of the 500 line. So again, the 560S, the 599, but still below the 600. Of course, you get your pretty durable Sennheiser plastic. Again, it does feel more expensive and less toy-like than the other 500 lines headphones, which are kind of a little bit like plasticky in your head and just feel not as durable, although they are. It's Sennheiser here is pretty, these are pretty well made headphones, but again, feels just more sturdy and more like a professional thing. Still, it is just a little bit cheaper feeling again than the 650 or 660S. It's just like if you touch the materials and just how it looks and feels in your hand, you can definitely see that it is placed somewhere between the usual Sennheiser lineup. Like all the other Sennheiser over years, it is built pretty well. It's good plastic. You've got your metal reinforcement in the sliders and the headband, I guess. And yeah, it creaks a little here and there sometimes. Nothing major and just sometimes only under pressure. The grill design differs a lot from all the other Sennheiser products. It looks pretty cool though. Like with the 500 lineup, you have this kind of weird shape, again, the oval shape, but with this logo inside there, and it just looks a little weird in my eyes. And the 600 lineup, you have the drivers, which you can see from the outside, which I think is pretty cool design. And this one is basically pretty out of the ordinary there. The cable is pretty standard and non-microphonic. It's just your usual Sennheiser cable here. It's neither too long nor too short. Just, it's fine. Let's go on with comfort. Comfort is great for me. I always like the velour Sennheiser uses with their earpads. Even with the pretty high clamping force of the 58X, it feels great and I can wear it for hours. It's soft but not too much, and you just feel like a thick blanket in your head and your ears. But again, the clamping force out of the box and even afterwards for quite some time is pretty strong. I like it. I like the firm fit, and the ear cups are huge and oval. So basically every type of ear should fit inside. But it's nevertheless, it's really strong clamping force. The headband is, well, you could say well padded. It does look like it's just a little bit here and there, but it feels fine. It's kind of a different material than what they used on the ear cups, more silk like. It still feels good though. But this is actually the only problem I have with this headphone. I sometimes get like a little pain on the top of my head here, where there is this little hole there, and it's just like a little bit much sometimes after a few hours. But I think you can easily change the headband here. You just can like put this up. You just can take this out here and then put a different one there. So I guess that's fine. But the stock one is okay too. Just the pads are better than the headband. So otherwise, I think it's perfectly comfortable. Again, just if you're sensitive to clamping force, I would try to kind of wear these in, maybe with a pack of books or something, or a headphone stand where you can put these on like this, and then they will kind of stretch out here. But otherwise, it's fine. So finally, sound. The HD58X has a pretty likable laid-back tuning with a warm bass and a really good and present mid-range, and again, really relaxed and laid-back treble. So let's start with the bass. It is kind of bassy for an open back, which kind of supports the general relaxed sound signature, but there is a focus on mid bass and a somewhat elevated lower mid range, so it does not really hit hard or rumbles or anything, and it does have the usual bass roll off that a lot of open backs have. What it does though, it makes everything sound really thick and have a lot of body, putting a nice veil over anything that could sound harsh. So with these characteristics, it is pretty different from the, for example, really clean and textured bass you get with like some planar magnetics, where the bass sounds extremely clean and you can really separate different bass notes and instruments in busy songs, all these kind of words you can use for that. But don't get me wrong, it is not a boomy or muddy mess or anything. It really does support the overall sound signature and does not overwhelm the other frequencies. And if I could use one word to describe the bass here, it would be fuzzy, but in a nice way. The mid bassy focus does give it some punch though, so it's not completely without any energy there, and it works really well for all kinds of stoner rock, by the way. It works well with the really thick stoner riffs and just the overall music genre. Midrange is kind of Sennheiser's thing. They do have a really nice in-house sound signature mid-range throughout all of their open back headphones, and it's done pretty nice here on the HD58X too. Instruments and voices are again somewhat veiled, with voices being more in the foreground and more intimate, but besides that, the mid-range is pretty well balanced with a dip in the upper section and the lower treble, which again is not too much but supports the relaxed sound here. And together with the bass, nothing here sounds thin or plasticky, just really like a full sound, and it's still somewhat energetic, and it's not dull or boring. The treble falls in line with that, but besides the slightly veiled lower treble, it can be a bit shrill sometimes, and I think there's a peak at around 8K or something. I think you can look this up on the frequency response graph. So sometimes you have some guitar work or like a female voice that somehow feels harsher than it should be. And that's a minor thing, but it can get a little irritating because the signature is just more relaxed, and then you have this kind of energy that comes out of nowhere there, and it's just a little irritating sometimes. And going back into the upper treble, the extension is not that great. Like, this is not an airy headphone where higher frequencies shimmer through, and this does take away from the overall really natural sound. It does not bother me. Again, it fits well within the headphone, but it's not the most open sounding. It's not really bright beside the little peak there that can be bothersome sometimes. I think you can use the word veiled, but in a more pleasant way when describing the HD58X. So the stock sound here works really well for most genres actually, and especially if you're easily fatigued by headphones, the HD58X is really worth a try. But that is also what makes this headphone kind of boring for some listeners. It just lacks some energy in the treble, and the fuzzy bass can be a big disadvantage too in that regard. I really miss some emotions here, like just really a matter of preference here. Regarding the staging, it's a Sennheiser open back, so it's kind of small and intimate. So you do not have that this wide stage some people are looking for, and things can sound cramped together, and it's kind of blobby. So you have this left, center, right. But that is also part of the charm of these Sennheisers, to get this cozy feeling with your music there. Separation of instruments, just as detail extraction, is okay. The bassiness, the warmth, and the dip in the treble kind of overshadows things sometimes. I mean, it's still fine. I do not find it muddy or anything. It's still capable, especially for the money and for the intended usage. I've heard that it is worse than the HD 600 and 650, and it should be. It's like it's cheaper. So yeah, these should be at least a little better. The HD58X is not really an analytical headphone. It's pretty much made to hear music or just listen to stuff for a while without getting annoyed by sharp sounds or piercing music or just anything like that. The imaging is fine. To be honest, I do not really know what to say here. It's okay. Yeah, it's good, but not extremely so. So is the HD58X still a good option to buy in 2023? Well, I guess so, especially since it's really extremely cheap for what it offers here, if you are in the US, of course. The build quality and just the overall technical abilities and the sound is more mature to my ears than the HD599. But if you're not in the US, the Biodynamic DT900 Pro X is basically the same price, like when you have to import it from the US to your country. And at least here in Germany, the Biodynamic 900 Pro X is kind of the same price. And to my ears has a better tuning with better treble extension and really better quality bass. Like the bass on the 900 Pro X is less in quantity, but it's the presence and the quality and the cleanliness and even the physicality of the bass. So it just hits you harder than the 58X. At least that's what it does to my ears. So that would be my recommendation if you're looking to buy one of these. So that's it with this review, and hope I could give you some information there, and help you decide if you want to buy the 58X or a different headphone. So yeah, see you next time. Goodbye.